How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here. Today I'm going to be going over my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Vegas 93, Perez vs. Taira on June 15th, 2024. Let's get right into it with the first fight of 11. We start with Josephine Knudsen versus Julia Polastri. I'm going to go with Josephine Knudsen by unanimous decision. Josephine, honestly, is one of my favorite prospects in women's MMA right now. She, in her debut against Marnik Mann, if I'm remembering that, she's like the short, she's really bad. She like 1080'd her every round. She beat the ever-living shit out of this chick. On the feet, beat her up, had great takedown defense in that fight, was able to control Marnik in her own way. She has good cardio. She was just beating the shit out of Marnik Mann. And Julia, it's her debut. She's kind of slow on the feet. She's very nonchalant on the feet. And I think that's one way that Josephine's going to be able to counter her on this in this fight, is because Julia, honestly, at times just doesn't look like she cares. She likes to use leg kicks. She's slow. She walks forward. She exchanges in the pocket, which can suit her well, but she does get countered. And on that Contender Series fight, Julia, what she struggles with mostly is people who have good ones and twos, which Josephine Knudsen has good ones and twos. The only way I see Julia having success in this fight is probably on the ground. She has the ability to sub on the ground, but her takedown entries are a little slow. She just overall is slow for a 115 fighter. And I think that's what's going to ultimately get Josephine Knudsen this win, is due to her speed, her just overall better athleticism. I think that Josephine's a better athlete than Julia, and I just think that she's better overall. Because I think this fight's going to take place on the feet most of the time, maybe in the clinch, and I just think that Josephine Knudsen does those things better than Julia Polastri. So Josephine Knudsen, unanimous decision, 30-27. Lock it in. We move to Melkaziel Costa versus Cheyenne Nerdembeki. I'm going to go with Melkaziel Costa by probably TKO. I think he's going to be able to finish Cheyenne. Both these guys are coming off Steve Garcia losses, which is kind of, that's kind of cool, I think. This fight, I feel, is going to take place on the feet most of the time. I feel if it gets to the clinch, I think it's going to be pretty even in the clinch even. Because Melkaziel, he's pretty strong in the clinch. He's got very good grip strength in clinch positions. He's able to hold on to people like in that Steve Garcia fight, he won the first round basically off of being able to control Steve Garcia for the entire round. It's almost like 4 minutes and 30 seconds of control time in that first round. He's also got crazy kicks to the body. His debut, he lost to Thiago Moises, but that was up a weight class. We saw Melkaziel's game against Austin Lingo, and he was piecing the shit out of Austin Lingo on the feet. He was beating the fuck out of him with body kicks. He pops a jab out sometimes. But then Cheyenne Nerdembeki, in this fight, he will have the puncher's chance. Cheyenne has, dude, he's got fucking rocks in his gloves, dude. This guy fucking hits hard as shit. And we saw that in the Steve Garcia fight, drop Steve Garcia really early in their fight. He has like 19 wins by KO, 10 by submission. This guy, he has the finishing ability, but we've seen Cheyenne, he's kind of fragile a little bit. He gets submitted a lot. He's gotten knocked out a couple of times. He gets hurt to the body a lot. And he's got a lot of quick twitch muscle, but he is finishable. And I just think that if Cheyenne is not able to land his signature right down the middle, I think just Melkaziel's just going to do whatever he wants with him, pick him apart from range. And with the way that Mel mixes up the head and body, I think that he's going to confuse the shit out of Cheyenne Nerdembeki, and I think he's going to finish him in the second round. I'll go body kick TKO, second round, Melkaziel Costa, and I think he'll get back in the win column. If Cheyenne Nerdembeki wins this fight, it'll be either knockout in the first round, or it'll be like a Dustin Jacoby, Alonzo Menafield situation where Melkaziel is dominating him, and then he'll get a random knockdown in the rounds. So that's what I think this fight's going to play out. We move to Jekka Sergi versus Weston Wilson. I'm going to go with Jekka Sergi by first round KO. Yeah. I don't really even need to do a breakdown for this fight. I just feel that Weston Wilson supremely struggles against explosive strikers, and that's exactly what Jekka Sergi is. He's a very explosive guy, has a lot of quick twitch ability. All Weston Wilson really has in this fight is grappling. He's a rangy guy on the feet, I guess, but he really likes to search for takedowns and submissions. And in both of his UFC fights, he's taken a lot of unreasonable punishment and ended up getting KO'd brutally in both of those contests. Yeah, Jekka Sergi, if he loses to Weston Wilson, I honestly don't think he'll amount to anything. I just think if Jekka Sergi is able to clip Lucas Alexander, who I compared to becoming a sort of Alex Pereira, how he was able to mix in kickboxing into MMA. If he's able to clip that guy on some bullshit, he should be able to clip Weston Wilson on some bullshit. And if he can't, then I have no idea what MMA is, and I will honestly stop watching. I'm joking. Yeah. If Weston Wilson wins, it'll be by submission, which honestly can happen, because how many losses by submission does Jekka Sergi have? He only has 3 losses. I know he lost to Anshul. 2 losses by submission. He honestly can lose by submission in this fight, because the biggest struggle that Jekka Sergi has is on the ground. He lost to Anshul Jabli via ground and pound strikes. So, it is what it is. I just think Jekka Sergi should be able to clip Weston Wilson, and if he can't, he'll amount to nothing. We move to Carly Giudice versus Gabriela Fernandez. I'm picking Carly Giudice in this fight, if I'm being honest. And listen, this fight, if Carly decides to keep this fight standing, it should be very close, and Gabriela will most likely win that. Gabby, she's very quick on the feet. She usually just kicks a bunch. She doesn't really throw a lot of punches, but she does throw a lot of kicks that are very powerful. Carly, we saw that on the Contender Series when she fought Ernesta Carrasqueta. She just kind of struck with Ernesta for the whole fight, just kind of spammed a bunch of 1s and 2s, landed a bunch on Ernesta, but in this fight, Carly Giudice should have a significant wrestling advantage. If Carly Giudice just has a little bit of high school wrestling, she should be able to beat Gabriela Fernandez, and I'll tell you why. Gabriela Fernandez, her grappling is honestly so dog shit. She just refuses to get up. In both of her fights, she's been held down. Who were the 2 people that held her down? I forget. Now I gotta look at this shit. Who held her down? So, Teresa Bleda and Jasmine Jasdavigius, which are not bad people to lose to. Teresa is a little suspect. Jasmine's not a bad loss, but the reason why these 2 people won is just because they held her down the entire time. She also hasn't fought in over a year, so maybe she's been improving the grappling, getting up. What do I know? But besides kickboxing, Gabriela Fernandez is pretty bad at fighting, wrestling-wise at least. Carly Giudice also is just going to have a size advantage over Gabby in this fight. And also, Gabriela, she has the same name as my ex, so I think it would be kind of funny to see her lose. So, Carly Giudice, she'll probably win by 29-28 unanimous decision. If Gabriela wins, she'll probably just land bigger power shots in the fight. If Gabriela wins, that's how it'll go down. Carly will, how I see her winning is by pressure, pace, and volume. Because she's not going to be able to outpower Gabriela Fernandez, if I'm being honest. Gabriela does have a bit of pop. But Carly Giudice, she's just, she does have 3 finishes. Well, she just couldn't beat Ernesta. So maybe she could finish Gabriela, but I'll go with Carly Giudice. Why did I forget her name? Jesus, goddamn. This card, there's a lot of shit happening recently, man. Carly Giudice, I'll pick her by unanimous decision, 29-28. We move to the featured prelim of what was supposed to be Joshua Van versus Tagir Lembekov, but that fight got canceled because Tagir is fat. I was going to pick Joshua Van in that fight too. We move to Jimmy Flick versus Nate Maness. I'm going Nate Maness in this fight. If he loses, he's terrible. Jimmy Flick is bad at fighting. He's old. He looks old, at least. He's only 33, but he resembles a fucking 40-year-old man. And also, Jimmy Flick, I thought he retired at 297 after beating Malcolm Gordon. I swear to God, he gave a retirement speech after winning that fight. But no, he's back. Only bad people lose to Jimmy Flick. Malcolm Gordon is terrible, and Cody Durden, he's not bad, but, like, come on, dude. If you have any takedown defense, any IQ, you should be able to beat Nate. You should be able to beat Jimmy Flick. Nate Maness, and also, if Jimmy Flick wins this fight, the only way he's going to win is by submission. I think almost every win of Jimmy Flick's career is by submission, if I'm not mistaken. 15 wins by submission. 6 of his 7 losses are by TKO KO. This guy's fragile. He's old. He's had so many surgeries in his life. He's had 4 fights in 4 fucking years. He sucks. If Nate Maness loses by submission to fucking Jimmy Flick, Umar Nurmagomedov is shit because Umar couldn't submit Nate Maness. I know that Tagir submitted Nate Maness, but that's because Tagir jumped on a guillotine, standing guillotine. If he loses to Jimmy Flick, Umar Nurmagomedov is dog shit. So that's what that means. So, yeah, there's no way he should lose to Jimmy Flick. Jimmy Flick is ass cheeks at fighting. I think I could beat him in a stand-up fight because he's that bad. Honestly, Jimmy Flick's stand-up skills resemble that of a Street Beefs fight. I've seen more talent in a Street Beefs contest than Jimmy Flick's UFC career. So, Nate Maness, he's got pop in his hands. He's kind of dumb, though. Nate Maness is dumb. He would be the type of guy to get submitted by Jimmy Flick. But he has pop. He is able to finish people. We've seen that. He's finished Mateus Mendonça in his last fight. I think all of his UFC wins, no, he couldn't finish Johnny Munoz Jr., but Luke Sanders, Tony Gravely, Mateus Mendonça, he beat all these guys by finish. If he loses to... If Jimmy Flick wins this, I'm not watching, I swear to God. We move to the start of the main card, Josh Quinlan versus Adam Fugit. I'm going to go with Josh Quinlan by first round KO. Josh Quinlan's had a rough time in the UFC recently. 2 losses back-to-back against Trey Waters, and he got the pulp beat out of him by fucking Danny Barlow. Danny Barlow beat the fucking shit out of Josh Quinlan. But Josh Quinlan's getting an easy one here, if I'm being honest. Adam Fugit just isn't that good, if I'm being honest. He's slow on the feet. And the reason why I'm picking Josh Quinlan is because Adam Fugit has the reach advantage, which is something that you want against Josh Quinlan. But Adam Fugit doesn't really know how to use range. Honestly, at times, Adam Fugit is the one rushing into shit. Like against Mike Malott, he threw the same thing that got Jason Witt KO'd against Josh Quinlan, which was rushing in with a kick that was not set up. Adam Fugit kind of just throws stuff out there without really thinking about it. He doesn't set up a lot of stuff. Adam Fugit's one win in the UFC is against an absolute fucking can. Who did he beat in the UFC? I forget. It was someone not good. Yeah, it was the guy that Billy Goff TKO'd with a body shot. The guy, Yusaku Kinoshita. Yeah, he that guy's like 6-3 overall. Yeah, cool, dude. You're able to beat him. Josh Quinlan is strong. He's got quick twitch ability. He hits fucking hard as balls. I just think that he should be able to finish a guy like Adam Fugit. Josh Quinlan also, I think he understands. He's 1-2 inside the UFC. He knows Adam Fugit's also 1-2 inside the UFC. Honestly, this is probably nearing the end of their contracts. Loser goes home type of matchup. I don't think Josh Quinlan's the type of guy to lose out on that. I like Josh Quinlan's mentality. He rushes in. Pause. Rushes in. Fucking dickhead. Josh Quinlan. Yeah, I just think I just think Josh Quinlan has the dog in him needed to get a knockout here. I don't think Adam Fugit really has that. So I think Josh Quinlan should be able to win by knockout. If not, then I don't know. Josh Quinlan, I think it'll resemble the Jason Witt KO. It'll be Adam Fugit rushing in with some non-setup strike, and he'll get knocked out. We move to Asu Almabaev versus Jose Johnson, the first 6-foot-tall flyweight in the UFC's history. I'm going to go with Asu Almabaev anyways. A part of me wants to pick Jose Johnson because he's so big and rangy. He's pretty quick for as big as he is. There was a lot of teeps to the body, throws a lot of front kicks, uses 1s and 2s at range. But what I don't like about him is that he is taken down and bullied on the ground pretty fucking easily, if I'm being honest. And Asu Almabaev has looked nothing short of incredible in his UFC career. Asu's takedowns are honestly beautiful. They're poetry in motion. On the feet, I can see him struggling against Jose Johnson, if I'm being honest. Asu does leave openings, especially when leaving grappling exchanges. He kind of throws caution to the wind sometimes, and that kind of sucks. He also spins a lot. But him being a savant on the ground really helps, because Jose Johnson has been subbed. How many times has this guy been subbed? It was some crazy. I think it's 6? Is it 6 losses by submission? It's 4. He has 4 losses by submission. He also got knocked out by Manny Martinez. I totally forgot about that. That was on Fury FC. But his UFC career, he's 1-1. He got submitted by Damon Blackshear by a twister. That shows his IQ on the ground. And yeah, I just think that Asu Almabaev is better. I think he's just a better overall fighter than Jose Johnson. Jose Johnson's lost a shit ton. Asu Almabaev, his only loss that I can remember is him versus Tagir. I think that was his. That's the only. He's has 2, but what was the other loss to? It was really early in his career. It was also after. It was right after Tagir. So he lost 2 in a row, and now he's on like a 15-fight win streak, right? So Asu, his ground ability is insane. His control is nuts. He's able to hold down anyone he wants. I mean, his UFC career hasn't been nothing. I mean, Ode Osborne, CJ Vergara, both veterans of the sport, and he kind of just dog-walked both of those guys. He's being active. Last time he fought was on that 299 card. Jose Johnson, I can't say the same about him. Also, Jose Johnson, even though he has a significant height advantage, we saw him struggle last time out against Chad and Helliger, who's only 2 inches taller than Asu, who has like half the skill, right? I mean, Chad and Helliger's kind of a dog, but he's got, I mean, let's be honest, he's nothing like Asu Almabaev. So, I think Asu Almabaev is just a better mixed martial artist, and I think that's what's going to carry him to a victory here. I just think that he's better than Jose Johnson. Not on the feet, but on the ground. And I think Jose Johnson being bullied on the ground by lesser opponents is why he'll lose this fight. Because I think he kind of allows himself to get bullied sometimes because he thinks, oh, I'm just going to get back. I'm so tall. They can't hold me. But, yeah, I just think Asu Almabaev, he should win because Jose Johnson also has a thin frame. He's a thin guy. It's not like he's a bulky 6 foot. His frame is pretty thin. His waist is pretty thin. So, yeah, not a lot of muscle on him either. He's kind of like the cinnamon stick from Apple Jacks. We move to Brady Heastand versus Garrett Armfield. I struggled with this pick for a while. I'm going with Garrett Armfield, but I wanted to pick Brady Heastand on the off chance that he is able to wrestle Garrett Armfield into the ground. But Brady Heastand, I just think it's a little too early in his career. I think he's still a little too raw, talent-wise, to be able to beat a fighter like Garrett Armfield, whose boxing is very crisp, and his takedown defense is actually pretty fucking good. Yeah, man. Let me go up to what I was... Yeah, I just think that Garrett Armfield, I think his boxing, I think his striking... Also, that win over Brad Katona is aging like a fine wine, man. Both of these guys are kind of junkyard dogs a little bit. They both have a tendency to get in the pocket with a lot of the guys that they fight with. Brady Heastand, however, has suffered a defeat, and he's also had close fights. I also don't like how Brady Heastand lost to Ricky Tercios. Ricky is tricky, But Garrett Armfield, I feel, is just a better mixed martial artist than Ricky Turcios. I think Garrett Armfield is a better mixed martial artist than Ricky Turcios. Sorry, I had a fucking Curtis Blaze moment. Brady Hiestand is a dog. He is a dog fucking fighter, man. He loves to get into the thick of it. But I just think that Garrett Armfield, when he gets in the thick of it, is a better controller guy than Brady Hiestand. I think Garrett Armfield's one loss in the UFC being David Onama is a way better loss to have than losing to Ricky Turcios. So the only way that Brady Hiestand's really going to have chances, his striking isn't really that good either. Brady Hiestand, his whole offense centers around his left lead leg head kicks. It's what he usually throws. He throws lead head kicks, throws a leg kick. He only throws punches as a countermeasure. And listen, he always looks for finishes, though. That is something I like about Brady Hiestand, but I just don't think that he's going to be able to get in those moments with a guy like Garrett Armfield, who has a controlling personality, who is able to control the center of the ring. So, yeah, I just think that Garrett Armfield's going to be able to win pocket exchanges. I don't think he's going to be able to knock out Brady Hiestand, because I think Brady Hiestand's recovery is one of his best assets. In that Dana Batrigal fight, he got dropped pretty bad in the second round at the start, and he was able to come back in that fight. And also, he came back to win that fight. I think he was down on all three scorecards in that third round, and he ended up winning the fight he literally just out-volumed him at the end. So, should be a fun fight, but I think Garrett Armfield's going to take it away with a unanimous decision. Probably 29-28. I think Brady Hiestand's going to have a lot of success early, and I think Garrett Armfield's going to start to take over as the fight goes on. We move to the featured fight, Timmy Kwamba versus Lucas Almeida. I'm going to go with Timmy Kwamba. This fight is pretty weird, if I'm being honest. I'm going to go with Timmy Kwamba on a hunch that I think that he's going to be able to land on the chin of Lucas Almeida. Lucas, for as decent of a kickboxer as he is, the one thing he really lacks is fluid movement. Lucas, for some reason, has a tendency to be very stiff in fights like this. He's very stiff, and he ends up getting clipped in the pocket a whole shit ton. He also can get controlled on the ground pretty easily. I mean, Pat Sabatini made this guy look like a fucking amateur in their fight. He was beating the shit out of him. So, when I'm looking at this fight, Timothy Kwamba, his debut was against Balaji Oki, who was a very touted prospect, and he ended up losing that fight by split decision. And he took that on short notice a week after already fighting somebody up a weight class, and he still took it a split decision against a really touted prospect. And also on the Contender Series, he fought Mateo Vogel, who is a pretty fucking good prospect, who's fought a lot of decent guys, and he was able to strike with that guy. And Mateo Vogel was able to eat the shots. I don't think Lucas Almeida is going to be able to take those shots. He's coming off that KO loss to Andre Fili, which, I mean, I don't want to say, it's a bad loss to have, but, let's be honest, it's not great to get knocked out in the first round by Andre Fili. I don't know the last person that's had that happen to him. Lucas is a bit of a dog, though. I think he's just, a really shitty early version of, an Alex Pereira, if I'm being honest. He's, just a really fucking dog shit kickboxer. He's, a really bad Brazilian kickboxer. That's kind of what he is. He's kind of just, bad at grappling. He has decent kicks. His leg kicks are pretty good, which is something that could be useful in this fight to him, because Timmy Kwamba does get hit with leg kicks. But I think Timmy Kwamba, with how explosive he is already at featherweight, against a guy like Lucas Almeida, who is stiff and does get clipped a bunch, I just don't think those mix well. And the things that Lucas Almeida gets hit by a lot are ones and twos. So I just think this is a bad matchup for Lucas Almeida for how slow and stiff he is. I think Timmy Kwamba, it's not that he's slow, it's the fact that Timmy Kwamba is going to be so much quicker than him. So I'll go with first round KO, Timmy Kwamba. I just think that he's going to flatline Lucas in the first. And if he doesn't, it could get tricky. But I think Timmy Kwamba can honestly resort to wrestling in this fight, because Lucas Almeida's grappling is pretty shit. We move to the co-main event of the evening, Douglas Silva de Andrade versus Miles Johns. I'm going to go with Douglas Silva de Andrade by unanimous decision. I just don't rate Miles Johns as a fighter, if I'm being honest. I don't think Miles Johns has the skills to do well against a guy like Douglas Silva de Andrade. Douglas Silva will only lose to really good people. The only guys he's lost to in his career have been I know he lost to Lerone Murphy. Who else? I know he lost to Zubaira Tukov. Who did he lose to in between those, though? Saeed Nurmagomedov, Piotr Yan, and Rob Font. You see, like, these are really good guys who have really good abilities on the feet and can also mix in that grappling. Miles Johns, his striking, if I'm being honest, is just very subpar. I just don't really think his striking is really that great. I think that he's going to be able to get picked apart on the feet by Douglas Silva de Andrade. And the thing that he does really well, mixing in takedowns and dominating on the ground and control, he also gasses. But back to the ground control thing, Douglas Silva de Andrade has a good takedown defense. He has like a 71% takedown defense. And Miles Johns just had a close fight with Cody Gibson, who looked like he was a teacher. Like, Cody Gibson was like an English teacher. He looked like an English teacher in the octagon that night. So, Douglas Silva, I think he's just faced better people. I think he's fought a lot better experienced people. And he's done better against experienced people than Miles Johns has against subpar competition. The only way that he'll lose this is by if Miles Johns is able to get takedowns and able to just work them. But I just don't think so. I think Douglas Silva, he's quick. He has good takedown defense. For as old as he is, he's still pretty good. Douglas, of course, hasn't beat the best competition, but he is coming off a Cody Stamann win. God, he hasn't fought in over a year, has he? Man, this fight could be close, just due to age and maybe athleticism. But I think Douglas Silva de Andrade is still pretty athletic. He also made that Saeed Nurmagomedov fight pretty close. So, yeah, I just don't think I don't rate him as a fighter, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's really that great. He's very sloppy on the feet, and even his wrestling isn't really that good. So I'll go with Douglas Silva de Andrade, unanimous decision. I'll say 30-27 if I'm being honest. I think he wins every round against Miles Johns. Miles Johns also does gas, so that's also another reason. We move to the main event, Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira. I'm going to go with Tatsuro Taira by first or second round submission. I'll go rear naked choke. I just think that Alex Perez, his biggest weakness is guys who are able to get in good grappling positions and able to submit him. That's really what it is. If you're able to get him to the ground and dominate on the ground, you're going to have a really good time. Even if you can just get in grappling positions like Muhammad Mukayev was, like, you're going to be able to have success against him. And Tatsuro Taira also, his striking is good to an awkward point, if you know what I mean. His striking is starting to get to that wrestling, grappling point where it's like confusing, so that's what makes it good, because you're so scared of the takedown against a guy like Tatsuro Taira that you're worrying about the takedown so much that you end up actually getting clipped yourself. It kind of happened to Carlos Hernandez. Tatsuro Taira does have holes in his game. I'm not saying that he's a perfect fighter. He did struggle against Edgar Chairez. I believe that Edgar did get a knockdown when they fought, but we've seen Edgar Chairez have some decent success in the UFC after this. Of course, he had the Daniel Lacerda thing. He looked pretty fucking good. So, even though he has losses. But other than that, I mean, Tatsuro's looked really good. He's beaten everyone by finish in the UFC besides Edgar, and I think his first fight, Carlos Candelario. But he's beaten Carlos Hernandez, he's beat Jesus Aguilar, he's beat CJ Vergara. These guys all have grappling credentials, and he's beaten all these guys. Like, he's undefeated. I understand he has holes in his game. I understand Alex Perez has faced better competition, but I just think that where Tatsuro Taira excels really well is where Alex Perez is at his worst. And Tatsuro Taira, he's not really his takedowns are also very good. He's not going to be like a sick Muhammad Mukayev who's just dropping for single legs every 10 seconds that are really shitty takedown attempts. Because Muhammad Mukayev, let's be honest, he did look shit in that fight. That was also due to him being ill. And he made that fight competitive with Alex Perez even while sick. Like, that's how bad Alex Perez's grappling is. Alex Perez will have a power advantage on the feet, I believe. Alex Perez does have power on the feet. He has good leg kicks. I think this fight could get ugly for Tatsuro if it goes long, because I think this is the first time Tatsuro Taira will be going 5 rounds in his entire MMA career, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, 2-5, 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 5. So we went He had one main event earlier in his career. So he had one main event, and that fight got stopped in the first round against Alfredo Moedad. That guy sucks. But, yeah, I think they're really trying to push Tatsuro Taira, especially since Kaya Skura just got signed by the UFC. They're trying to push Japan into a extreme part of the UFC. And I love this because we haven't seen Japanese MMA in the UFC for a long time. Success anyways, at least. So Tatsuro Taira, I think this is the guy that's going to be able to do it. I really like him. I've liked him since he came into the UFC. I've been picking fights since this guy came into the UFC. I'm pretty sure Carlos Candelario, what fight night was this? What fight night? Yeah, Blachowicz Rakic was when this guy, made his debut. I've been picking fights ever since this guy's whole career, and I've just been a fan of him ever since he stepped foot onto this scene. So I just believe, he's beaten good competition inside the UFC. Not as great, of course, as Alex Perez, but Alex Perez, all he really needs is a lucky punch. That's kind of what he succeeds at well, is having those punches, those shots land in those pocket exchanges. And also he has a deadly leg kick game. But besides that, Alex Perez, he'll have a stand-up advantage, of course, but I think on the ground is where Tatsuro Taira, again, I've said it a couple of times now, I think where Tatsuro Taira exceeds very well is where Alex Perez is at his worst. He does crumble in bad situations on the ground, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen in this fight. I think that Tatsuro Taira is going to get him to the ground, and Alex Perez is going to start squirming like a fish out of water, and that's what's going to end up getting him caught in a submission. I say rear naked choke first or second round. Man, Tatsuro's only 24 years old. Jesus Christ. I think we're going to see Tatsuro Taira break into the top 5. And honestly, a win like this at flyweight gets you a title shot. So I could see them giving him another matchup like Brandon Moreno after this. But yeah, I just think that Alex Perez just isn't good on the ground. And I think that's what's going to get him. He could honestly get an armbar as well. But Alex really gives up his neck, man. And that's what's going to make him lose his fight. I'm UFC Thoughts. These have been my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Vegas 93, Perez vs. Taira on June 15th, 2024. My confident picks reside with Josephine Knudsen, Nate Maness, and in the co-main event, Douglas Silva de Andrade. My pre-card rating is a 4 out of 10. This card has suffered a shit ton. Ikram Aliskerov, of course, subbing in on short notice for Khamzat Chimaev for next week's UFC Saudi Arabia. Honestly, I like that fight. I feel like Ikram has that fluky Mickey Mouse ability to get a first-round KO, but I'm probably going to pick Robert Whittaker. I'm still debating on that fight. And, of course, just today, Joshua Van Tagir Ulanbekov is off the card due to Tagir missing weight, the fat cunt. So we missed out on that great fight. I was picking Joshua Van, and I still believe Joshua Van can win that fight. Tagir is so slow on the feet, man. Everyone hypes him up on the feet. He's dog shit on the feet. That's hyperbole. He's really good on the feet. He's just slow. He leaves openings. So yeah, card's not great. This is the first card of the year where I'm genuinely like, this card has really no redeeming qualities. There are some good. I really like Tatsuro Taira. Besides that, Garrett Armfield, that's a cool fight. Asuma Bay of Jose Johnson's cool because of the height difference. Besides that, I like Melchizedek. Melchizedek Costa is cool. But yeah, this card kind of stinks. So I'll see you guys after the fights. Peace.